trusted career progression process that you've seen over 25 years that works?
Thank you very much. One of the things that resonated so much with me is not all of us who are here, it's not what we studied that we're doing. Now, I studied mechanical engineering for my first degree.
Thank you.
But I've been a banker for 26 years. All right? I didn't study banking. I've been a banker for 26 years across 7 different financial institutions. I'm still a banker. Right? So it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter what you've done. You can pivot, you can do anything. That's one of the key things we have learned from her. Now, she said something about the soft skills. And one of the things I usually tell people is that the greatest skill that I believe anybody can have, irrespective of what you do, is communication skills. Communication. You need to know how to communicate. It's very, very important. No matter how much you know the technical skills, if you are not able to pass across what you know, then it is difficult for you to be hired. One of the things that I used to do when I started my career, when I usually had the time to hunt for interviews, was to work on my communication skills. And how do you do that? I encourage people, if you're here, you must read. The more you read, the better you are able to communicate. Read widely. Don't just read or learn about your areas. One of the things I also normally do is I watch the news. By the way, one of the people you should follow is our moderator here, Kayode Okikiolu. So you want to know how to communicate. Watch his videos. Watch him on TV. Watch how he pronounces things. He corrects me a lot. I hear him pronounce some things and then I go to check myself. My wife is also my toe holder. She speaks better than I do. So many times when I'm even here, sometimes when I'm preaching, after I go to her, she corrects me and says, you didn't pronounce those things very well. So I watch the news. I stay in front of the mirror and I rehearse. I speak to myself. I speak as if I'm speaking to an audience. And then the more you do that, the better you get. So read, write. I also tell people your social media is not just for you to be sharing pictures. Write. And the more you write, the better you get. You don't have to write long articles, just short things. And don't write in shorthand. You see the way a lot of people write in shorthand. And they want to write because. And then they write BCOS. As if it's the short word for Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State. But that's not it. So write longhand. Have an accountability partner. Somebody you can bounce a lot of these things off. And they can correct you. And you can get better. And that's how your communication skills get better. But I think one key takeaway here is, and she couldn't have said it better, please network. Network. Before you leave this place, you need to know the names of the 2 or 3 people who are sitting around you. Just see the story she told about the person she met around UBA, who told about Deca Global. All right? So network. I can tell you, if I need to tell you the story of my career in just a short sentence, if you allow me, for me, it's about networking. The first job I ever got as a banker, I served in Port Harcourt, and we just finished our service year 2000. And then when I was on campus, I was the president of the Student Union. The guy who was my speaker, he served in Bayelsa. He came to me and then showed me an advert in a newspaper that they were looking for bankers and people who had the minimum of 2-2 in any discipline. So he encouraged me to apply. And both of us applied on the day it was closing. Long story short, I was called for an aptitude test, passed the aptitude test, passed the interview, called for some other levels of interview, and I was hired. Can everybody say Bank One?
Bank One.
So I worked there for some time. And then after I worked there for some time, I was living in a place called Ashi in Ibadan. And then I had a neighbor. It was a compound that had about 8 different flats. 5 of those flats were occupied by bankers. So we had one man who was the most senior out of us. And one evening I drove in. And as I drove in, he looked at me and said, "Oh, Bayo, come. There is a bank that is opening down the road where I work. And they are looking for marketers, relationship officers. Are you interested? I have learned to never say no to any opportunity." So I told him, yes, I was interested. And then he took me, by the hand, the next day, took me to the person who was going to be the branch manager. Incidentally, his own name is also Bayo. And then I got interviewed and I got hired. Can anybody say Bank 2?
Bank 2.
And you see, it was a neighbor in my house. And one of the things I've ever wondered was, why didn't he call the other people? Why me? And that's the reason why you need to network. So I worked there for some time. And then on a Monday morning, I was going to work. And then I got a phone call. It was a lady on the call. And the lady said, "Well, somebody told me about you, that you're a good marketer. I would like to see you. We are trying to hire some people. And I want to know where I can work with you." I've never seen her before in my life. So she gave me her address. I went to that place, gave her my CV. Those were the days of floppy drive. She saw me and said, "I'd like to work with you." And then sent me to Lagos. Then I was in Ibadan. And then I was interviewed, went up to the MD level. got interviewed that week. When I got my letter of offer, I came to church the following Sunday, and lo and behold, there was a brother who came to see me after the service. And he said, "Oh, Bro Bayo, sorry, a cousin of mine, I met her. I've not seen her in the past 8 years. She said she came to Ibadan looking for marketers, and then I gave her your name." I said, "Oh, you're the one who gave her my name." Now, that brother had a driving school. That was what he was doing inside church. He was the one who taught my wife how to drive, but he was the one who recommended me for that job. That was how I got bank what? So I worked there for some time. And then Solido consolidation came. And then all of us were wondering, those were the days when banks were to make 25 billion. Now, the highest is now 500 billion. That 25 billion seemed so huge at that time. And then we're all lamenting, are we going to make it? Are we not going to make it? And there was a team lead where I worked. And then there was a guy who was also a team lead. Both of us were lamenting. And then that guy told me, "Bayo, there is bank down where I came from. Let me just give you a note. Maybe they will even hire you." I mean, we had the same challenge. We're looking for a place to go to. But he just took his card and wrote at the back, "Oga, Bayo is my colleague. You may want to discuss with him." I took that card. I walked down the road. It was not so far. Walked to that particular bank. Saw the security guard. Told him I was looking for this particular person, was the branch manager. They took me to him. I gave him the card. He said, "Oh, you're from Biodun, sit down." And then he asked me a few questions. I answered him. He said, "I like you. I actually have a vacancy, but you see, you need to be interviewed by 3 people." So it took a file that he opened for me, took me to the next person who happened to be senior and said, "Oga, I would like to interview this guy to see if I can hire him." That guy, without making eye contact, asked me to sit down. I sat down. You know, the thing he asked me, "Which secondary school did you go to?" And I said, "Federal Government College, Idwani." He looked at me. He said, "Which year did you finish?" Apparently, when I was in Form 1, he was in Form 5. That's in school. Do you know the question he asked me? "Let's sing our school anthem." And then we started singing AGC. And after I finished singing that song, he hit the table and said, "I'm going to hire you." He said, "So that they don't say that I did not ask you any question. How many credits did you have in SSC? You have English, you have maths." And then he took the file, went to the third person and said, "This is my guy. I need you to interview him." No. Interviewed. He sent me to head office. I got interviewed up to MD. And then I was hired. Bank number what? Bank number 4. So I worked there also for some few years. And then one day, it was a Saturday, I decided to call a former boss of mine. Those days we used to do Saturday banking. I hope I'm not boring you with my story. No. Okay. And then I called out my former boss. And that is why, please, don't just use people to climb the ladder. Always be in touch with people. Network actively. Don't say because you have crossed the bridge, you are going to discard people. Okay? So I had my former boss and I said, "Oh, guy, I just said I should say hello to you." And then we were chatting. And then I mentioned the particular guy I saw with him the last day. I said, "Oh, how is he?" He said, "Oh, that guy just resigned though. And he has gone to so. He said, "By the way, are you aware they are opening in Ibadan? And they are looking for a branch manager?" I said, "Okay, I'm not aware." He said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Oh, guy, you know I'm interested." And so he said, "Okay, give me a minute." And then the next minute, he called somebody. He called me and said, "Bayo, you're a very lucky fellow. The guy I called is the project manager for that building, for the bank. And the guy said he's in Ibadan right now. If you can meet him up, like in 10 minutes, he will wait for you." Wow. Oh my God. I entered into my car. How many people have read about Jehu in the Bible? I drove like Jehu. You know, ran to that place, saw him. The moment the guy saw me, looked at me, said, "Have I not seen you before?" You know what? When I was in Form 1, he was in Form 5, the same secondary school. So he took my CV, and then he said, "You're going to write a test." That was a Saturday. Monday, I went to Lagos, I wrote the test. As I was coming back, he called me, "Have you seen the result?" I said, "No." He checked. He said, "Bayo, you passed." Tuesday, come back for the interview. I did the interview on Tuesday. Wednesday, they continued with the interview. Thursday, they asked me how much I was going to earn. We negotiated salaries. Friday, they asked me to come and do my medicals. Same day, I got my letter. That's bank what? That was how I became the first branch manager of an international bank in Ibadan. I worked there some years, came to Lagos, got redeployed, worked with a particular line manager who went to another bank, and then she called me and said, "Bayo, I would like to work with you." And then I moved to the other bank. That's bank number what? So I worked there for some time again, and then this same boss moved to another place and said, "Bayo, I would like to work with you again," and brought me, and that's where I am right now. So it's the story, if you look at it, it's about network. That is why I tell you, please take advantage of your networks, your alumni association, your community association, where you are. Some of you don't even greet your neighbors, and you don't know that they hold so much value. One of the people who helped me was somebody who taught my wife how to drive. So in your career, it is not about what you know. Everybody knows what you know. Sometimes it's about who you know. I'll just stop there. Thank you.